Well, it wasn't the plan. It wasn't my intention, but I'd always loved the water. My mom liked to say that I was part fish, and she might have been right. When I was little, I would get on my Stingray bicycle with the banana seat and the wheelie bar, and I'd ride through the town and the next town and a time zone, and I'd have to show my passport, and then I would get to the swimming pool where I would practice with the swim team. And that swimming pool was the only clear water that I swam in as a child because I'm from the Midwest. And so our natural aquatic environment was usually a river, a pond, or a lake. And they all had the same characteristics: zero visibility, a very squishy, viscous bottom, and a mysterious inventory of amphibians, reptiles, and fish. And by far the murkiest of my Midwest swimming holes was the mighty Mississippi River. And if you're unfamiliar with the Mississippi River, it's about 12 miles wide and it circumvents the globe from north to south. Now, my grandma had a cabin on the Mississippi near Hannibal, Missouri. And I say cabin, we called it a cabin. Really, it was a one room shack, as it were. And it was up on stilts about 300 feet just to accommodate the spring floods. And we had to go from the Missouri side to the Illinois side to go swimming. Because on the Missouri side, all we had was a muddy bank that dropped off straight down and water moccasins under our dock. So we would have to go over to the Illinois side because the Illinois side had sand. It wasn't Florida sand, it wasn't white, beautiful sand. It was more like gravel pit sand, but they had sand. And those Illinois people, they were so snooty about it. They had sand and they had Abraham Lincoln, and they never let you forget it. The license plate frame used to say Land of Lincoln, and then they changed it to Sand of Lincoln. Well, I think they were just jealous because over on the Missouri side, of course, we had Mark Twain. To get to the Sand of Lincoln, we'd have to take the boat. Now there was five of us kids, plus mom, plus dad, sometimes the dog, oftentimes grandma. So we could not all fit in the same boat because our boat was a rather small aluminum, and I mean aluminum. It was made of aluminum foil, heavy duty, and we had christened it Reynolds wrap. And so dad would take us, all of us kids, and he would put life jackets on us. And these weren't the nice nylon vests that you see today. No, these were the big canvas ones that were filled with something that I could only hope would float if you happened to fall out of the boat. And they would wrap around you. We looked like linebackers wearing orange shoulder pads, and they had cloth straps with rusted buckles, or they didn't have buckles at all, and you just had to tie a knot and you hoped for the best. So off we'd go across to the sands, and we'd have to do two trips, of course. And so sometimes we didn't get there until late afternoon, or if there, was a barge that we had to wait for, half of us didn't get there till the next day. But eventually, we'd all gather on the sand. And swimming in the Mississippi River is not for the faint of heart. It's murky. There's things in it, and there's a current. If you get too far away from the sand, you can get swept up in this aquatic jet stream and just be taken away. And so we learned very young as children that if you got caught in the aquatic jet stream, you just needed to relax, lay on your back, channel your inner Huck Finn, and eventually someone would notice that you were missing, and dad would get in the Reynolds wrap and he would come downstream and he would fetch you. Well, one time I was 3 miles gone and almost a Hannibal before he caught up with me. By far, my favorite thing about the Mississippi River, though, was the turtles. I don't know why. I just fell in love with the turtles. Maybe it's just because they're really cool, really chill vibe that would just hang out on rocks and logs in the sun, and then they'd plop over into the water if danger was approaching, or a 7-year-old girl with a net, perhaps. And every once in a while, we'd manage to catch one and we'd have it as our pet for the day. But mom always made us leave it behind. She wouldn't let us take it back across because she said the Illinois turtles did not get along with the Missouri turtles. And she might have been right because the state reptile of Illinois is the painted turtle. And as the name implied, it's a bit of a diva. Look at me, I'm a painted turtle. I have a beautiful shell. I live in the sand. Whereas on the Missouri side, the state reptile is the three-toed box turtle. And as the name implies, it had a carton of Marlboros under its shell and had a propensity for getting into barroom brawls. Well, years after my Mississippi Midwest turtle infatuation phase, I traveled to Hawaii for the first time. And I don't know if you've been to Hawaii or a tropical paradise, but the water there is not like the Mississippi. It is clear, it is beautiful. It's like swimming in a magnifying glass. You can see everything. I felt like I was flying over the coral mountains. And the fish were red and yellow and striped, and the parrotfish, and they were nothing like their Midwestern relatives. And even the names were better. And in the Midwest we had the carp. In Hawaii they had the huma huma nuku nuku apawaha. Well, that first time in Hawaii, I got farther out and I looked down and I saw a familiar shape and I thought, that looks like a turtle. And just as I thought that, it lifted up off the sand and slowly came up to the surface, popped its head up, gave me a little nod, took a breath, and went back down again. And I was smitten. Turtles became my thing. Now, I've never had a thing. I've never been one of those people that had a thing, like a spirit animal, like an angel or a wolf or a penguin or a polar bear that took over their wardrobe, their interior decorating. In fact, I always gave a mental eye roll when I saw somebody with a spirit animal emblazoned across their chest. But I was smitten, and there I was 2 days later at Hilo Hattie's buying a turtle mug and starting down that slippery slope of Crazy Turtle Lady. And soon, if you could wear it, hang it, drink from it, I had it. That rubber thing you use when the lid on the jar is too tight, a turtle. And in fact, I even got a wrap for the minivan, much to my kids' horror. And so we were the only giant green sea turtle moving through the school drop off line very slowly. We went back and forth to Hawaii several times every year. I would go and I would look for the turtles. My wife, Diane, threatened me with divorce if I brought home one more piece of turtle paraphernalia. So the next time we went, I just got a tattoo of a turtle because nothing says badass mom like a turtle on your ankle. It did get so bad, though, I had to join CTLA, which is Crazy Turtle Lady Anonymous. And the mantra was, God, grant me the serenity to accept that I have too much turtle stuff, the courage not to buy any more turtle stuff, and the wisdom to remember those first two rules. Now, the last time we went to Hawaii, just recently, about a year ago, same thing. I launch myself into the surf and I start to kick out and I see the white sand and the silverfish. They're always the first ones that pop up. And then the coral and of course all the rainbow fish and the huma huma nuku nuku apawaha came by, which by the way, that means triggerfish with a pig snout and an inferiority complex is what that means. But anyway, I'm out there and I see that familiar shape. In fact, I see several of them. I look down and it's like a turtle convention. They're all gathered around a clump of coral. And as I'm wondering in my head, what are they convening about? I feel a big slap on my leg. And I turn around and there's a turtle. So I start to swim away because I know you're not supposed to get within 10 feet of a turtle, and you're certainly not supposed to touch a sea turtle. So I start to swim away, and all of a sudden, I feel an even bigger slap on my back and a heavy weight. And all of a sudden, I'm being pushed underwater, deeper and deeper. And I think to myself, after all my years of devotion, this is how it's going to end, death by turtle. And as we keep going and keep going, I realize that my ears aren't hurting at all. And I don't feel the need to breathe, but I'm not out of breath. It's like the breath I took up on the surface seems to be lasting forever. And also, I keep hearing music. I keep hearing Under the Sea from Little Mermaid in like an endless loop in my head. And really, that was the most frightening part of this whole experience. But as I process this, I get down to the turtle convention and I can see what they're looking at. There is a little turtle, and it's got its head through the plastic loop of a spear of a 6-pack ring, right? And the other ring is attached to a piece of coral and it's stuck. And so the turtle that brought me down to the convention looks at me and tilts its head and kind of a, do you see this? Only I could hear it in my head, like turtle telepathy. So I answered back in my head, yeah, did you want me to help? And all of a sudden, all the other turtles just start yelling. They're like, "Oh my God, you brought us a dumb human. You said a human could help. What have humans ever done for us?" I'm like, wait, stop, 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 stop. I'm like, I am a good human. I said, and we know we're not supposed to touch turtles. So I just want to make sure it's okay. And they all sort of grumbled. And I swam over to the little turtle, and her eyes were really, really big. Probably was thinking it needed to get to the surface to take a breath, which made me wonder when I was going to need to get to the surface to take a breath. Uh, and I said, "Hi, I'm Regina. What's your name?" "Esmeralda." "Oh, Esmeralda, that's a beautiful name. It means green because I'm a green sea turtle." "Well, yes, you are. And Esmeralda, I'm going to help you out. Okay, I'm going to try to get you unstuck here." So I took the end that was around the coral and I got it off the coral, and then I had some slack, so I was able to work the other end up and over her head. And finally, she was free. And the other turtles, reluctantly sort of gave me a kind of a turtle golf clap with their little flippers. And the large turtle, who happened to be Esmeralda's dad, I found out, starts to head up to the surface with Esmeralda. And I follow them up, and we all pop up and take a breath. And the turtle dad looks at me and says, "You're a good human." And I said, "Well, thanks. Can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "Why did you pick me?" "Well, you had that turtle tattoo on your ankle, so I thought you must be a good human." Like, "Oh, okay, well, thanks, I guess. What can I ask your name?" "Michelangelo." Like, "Oh, like the Ninja Turtles?" And he said, "No, like the Michelangelo. He was friends with my dad. We're from Italy." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right. Well," and at this moment, Esmeralda swims over to me and says, "Thanks for unstucking me." And I said, "Well, you're welcome, Esmeralda. Um, Watch where you're putting your head next time." And she said, "Watch where you're putting your trash next time." And at that moment, we heard a motor, and we turned and we looked, and there was a tourist boat coming up about 50 yards away, and it dropped anchor, and we could just see all of these people on the boat, and they're all like shouting and screaming and, "Look, there's a turtle. Look at the turtles. We got to go see the turtles." And they all get off the boat and they're swimming over with their paddle boards and their flippers and their masks and snorkels and their floats. And Michelangelo looks at me and goes, "I hate August." And at that moment, Esmeralda came up and said, "Dad, Dad, Dad, can we do that game? You know that game we do where we let them get really, really, really close, and then we dive down to the bottom and we all stay there until they have to leave. And then when they're just about to the boat, we pop back up again and they all go, oh, and then they take their flippers and go, oh, like that. I love that game. That just never gets old. Can we do that, Dad?" And he says, "Sure, let's go down and let's get the rest of the gang." With that, they took a breath, dove back down for what I can only imagine was Operation Torment the Tourists. And I took a breath and started kicking back to the beach. And as I moved my way back, I thought, would anybody even believe me? I didn't even know if I believed me. 2 days later, we were back at Hilo Hattie's, and there was a beautiful cutting board, had a turtle on it. And Diane looked at me and said, "I suppose one more turtle thing wouldn't hurt." And I smiled and I said, "No, no, I think I'm good. I don't think need any more turtle paraphernalia." It hadn't been my intention, it hadn't been the plan, but I knew without a doubt that I had become the crazy turtle lady. Thank you.